From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seemed like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Hey, good evening, Des Moines. Welcome to webcast1live.com. This is the N Lefty program coming to you every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the the Spring and Sprung studios of Webcast One Live here in Des Moines on the Skywalk. I'm Lefty, coming to you as always with my main man, the future precinct captain of the Hillary for President 2016 presidential campaign, Dr. Pat Petrosh. Doc, what's up?
Not much. I will tell you, this has been a fairly exciting week. Lots of news hitting the waves. There's a lot of news locally, a lot of news internationally, and the best thing is it's nice out today.
It's nice out today.
Even better than a nice day, we have a wonderful guest with us today, a guy named Tom Hoefling, and he ran for president in 2012 on the American Independent Party. Is that it?
America's Party nominated me nationally. California was the American Independent Party.
Oh, wow. So anyway, he ran. He's now running against Governor Branstad, which, that's a big row to hoe. I mean, Branstad's been very popular. So we appreciate having Tom on our show today. We're going to get to know him and talk to him quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Now, a couple of things I want to talk about before we get to Tom is I want to do an update on Ukraine. The bottom line is the Russians are approaching the eastern part of Ukraine exactly the same way they did Crimea. The difference is the Ukrainians are ready for them, but they cannot do anything to, violently to repel the people that have assaulted their buildings without having the Russians use that as an excuse to come over the border, much like they did in Georgia. Or at this point, there are 60 people being held hostage in a town called Lugansk, which is about 60 miles from the Russian border. And there's been people trying to take over the Supreme Court in Kiev, protesters in Donetsk. And if the Russians follow their pattern on April 15th or thereabouts, they'll probably go across the border. A lot of people don't think they will. A lot of analysts were wrong about Crimea. So the same analysts are saying the Russians won't go. Well, it's not going to cost them that much to take it over. And yes, there's not going to be a lot of resistance because there can't be resistance. The Tartars in Crimea have set up their own military there in Crimea. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Now, news from Governor Branstad is he fired Danny Carroll today. And Danny Carroll is the guy that said, listen, there was no money payoffs under your administration.
Not Danny Carroll.
No, I thought it was Danny Carroll.
Danny Carroll's the new head of the Republican Party.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness. Which Carroll was it then?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, he fired that guy.
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Well, Tom, help me out here. What was that?
Well,
we'll get Tom's input here.
I haven't been following this story that closely. I've been out talking to people running for governor, and I kind of see bits and pieces. The Des Moines Register has been
it's Mike Carroll.
Mike Carroll.
I'm sorry, Danny. I apologize because you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, these things are going on. We've been watching with interest, but sounds like somebody wasn't telling the truth, and it was pretty close to the governor. In fact, it made the governor go out and give false information in the past few days to the press. That's not ever a good thing.
Never a good thing.
No,
now,
and this happened within the last hour.
Oh,
so
well,
we're on the cutting edge.
Well, and remember that I think it wasn't one of us, probably you, but almost certainly me, said something about heads rolling over this thing and we were speculating on whether or not heads would roll, and one of them has just found himself out of a job, I guess. So Tom, you just got on the ballot. This is something when Doc told me that he wanted to have you on the show, I said, oh, that's great, because we always like to have guests on, especially folks that are taking a different tack politically. But I hadn't heard any announcement. I didn't. I don't follow Branstad very closely, but I hadn't seen that there was going to be a primary challenge. When did you get your signatures together and get on the ballot?
Well, I actually announced in December. It took us a very long time to crack through the press barriers. In fact, it took us about 2 months. But in the meantime, we were out working hard, not spending money, but just grassroots volunteers getting those signatures. And it's very difficult, especially considering it was 10 and 20 below most of the time.
Yeah,
that's tough.
The worst. This would have been the worst winter to try and do any sort of glad handing or political organization.
Frankly, the political hacks, shall we say, didn't think we'd get it done. Mm-hmm. And, we had our own questions at times because, again, it was very difficult. We had to get almost 4,000 signatures from at least 10 counties. We ended up getting, and you have to get a minimum from each county according to the last presidential vote as well. We ended up getting more than enough. We had 21 counties total, and we came in right under the wire, and we got it done.
That's a lot of driving in really, really cold weather. I'm sure that you probably had a few breakdowns along the way.
It was brutal. Actually, I have a little story. See this pen?
Yeah, I do.
These are low viscosity pens, and we discovered those at Walmart because all the other pens we were using were freezing.
Oh my gosh,
ink wouldn't flow.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I had to do. Because I got in the habit when I first learned how to drive several years ago that when it gets really cold, you got to lick the nib of that pen to make sure you can jot down your mileage when you get into a new tank of gas.
What did you have to do to that pen?
Yeah, you got to just warm it up a little bit.
Lick the nib?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
Oh, goodness.
Hey.
Are we going to be able to leave that in, Frank?
Well, not now.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Anyway, every single word. Well, that's the name of the piece of the pen that I was talking about. Anyway, just ignore him, Tom. So you got your signatures together. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. A short sort of dime store biography to kind of let us know who Tom Hoefling is.
Well, I've been doing politics for about 25 years. Started in Iowa doing precinct politics out in Sac County. I'm the father of 8, and I have 2 grandchildren as well. I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian. I don't make any bones about who and what I am. I can talk to anybody, but I don't pander to people. I just tell them what I believe. So I've been at this a very long time. I've worked on campaigns all over the country for many years. I do some consulting, but primarily I'm a conservative activist.
Okay. Have you held office?
I have not. No.
You have not. Okay. So here it is, 2014. And it might as well be 1989 because Terry Branstad is over at Terrace Hill again, and every wonk. I take cheap shots whenever I can. Every wonk out there kind of says that it really doesn't matter. Governor Branstad's going to get reelected. He's never been more popular. He is able to kind of credibly claim that he turned the economy around after the disaster that was Chet Culver.
Well, we all agree on that.
Well, some of us
right.
agree more than others.
Well,
I was no fan of Chet Culver, but still.
Well, hang on a second. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be back right after the break. We'll ask. We'll have you finish your question,
Sure.
Tom. We want to tell everybody we're on Facebook, Twitter. We have docandlefty.com, so go visit our sponsors. Brad's on Halo Capital, Des Moines Anesthesia. We're all out there, and we're hoping that we have Brad's commercial all fired up. Frank, we have it fired up. Can we do it? Great. We'll be back right after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Tonight, our special guest is gubernatorial candidate Tom Hoefling.
On the whole, I think Washington, D.C. is a terrible place. It's hot, it's humid, kind of smells, and it's totally lacking individuals who know how to create jobs and live within their means. Hi, I'm Brad Zahn, and I approve this message. And I'm running for Congress because we owe it to future Iowans to fix the mess that was created in Washington, D.C. I've had real experience creating jobs, cutting taxes, and balancing budgets while mayor and in the state senate. If you trust me to represent you, I promise I'll go to Washington, D.C. and do the right thing, and come home every Sunday to spend time with my wife, my kids, and my neighbors here in Iowa. We cannot leave this country in worse shape than we found it. I will not pass this debt on to my children or yours. I will go to Washington, D.C. and tell them enough is enough. Standing together is the only way we're going to get Washington, D.C. to listen, and I hope you'll join me in this fight.
Brad Zahn for United States Congress.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the first segment. We've got gubernatorial primary candidate Tom Hoefling, self-described conservative activist who has been active in Iowa politics and national politics around the country, worked on some campaigns. Did you worked on any presidential campaigns, Tom?
I was very closely associated with Dr. Alan Keyes for many years.
Yeah.
Worked on his campaigns here in Iowa. I went on. I became one of his top staffers back in 2000. So I went on and worked with him over the years on a lot of stuff. Worked in D.C. and did my time there, shall we say, and so that's kind of how I really got into national politics.
Sure. Okay. So going back to the question I was going to ask you right before the break, we have this popular Republican governor, a guy who's ostensibly on Doc's team and on your team, and we have almost certain to defeat. Well, at least from the you keep giving me grief about down in Jack Hatch, a guy on my team, and I don't mean to do it, Jack. I promise. If I can get a hold of your campaign guy, we want you on the show. But
we do want you on the show, and we would treat you nice. And we've already met.
Yeah, desperately.
Even Ed told you we were decent people.
We want you on the show, but everybody out there was saying that it didn't really matter who the Democrats put up, and here we have a primary challenger. So question is, what's your beef with the governor?
Well, I have a number of beefs with the governor, and it starts with Common Core.
Mm-hmm.
I don't support Common Core. He does. I've joked, and I've gotten a little trouble joking about this, but the only Republican in the state that I know that supports Common Core lives at Terrace Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hear that there are others, but it's kind of like Bigfoot,
Right.
You can't prove it by me. So
They move really fast past the
So,
camera.
you know, at first, folks didn't know about Common Core. Of course, Culver brought it into Iowa. But more and more people are becoming aware of what it is. I call it the final blow against any semblance of local control that we actually have left in our state. Now, if you get elected to the school board right now, you find out real fast that you're really just part of the facade. More than 90% of your budget is already earmarked for you by the state and by the feds. So it's not really local control, because the money is the point of control. I've been out talking to people and saying, look, we got to stop taking our education dollars, sending it to Des Moines, sending it to D.C., letting them run it through a big bureaucracy and send a little bit back with strings attached. Doesn't make any practical sense. So I proposed what I call TLC, true local control. My whole political life, my whole adult life, I've heard Iowa politicians pay lip service to local control, including Branstad. But in fact, we're being consolidated out of existence. If you come to my little town up in Calhoun County right now, the town of Lorville, go 2 blocks from my house, our school, the shade trees out front that have been there for 100 years, they've been cut down, and there's a demolition fence around our school. It's getting ready to go to the wrecking ball. It's going to leave a big gaping hole in the middle of our town. And so I don't like it. And
well, and again, we're with gubernatorial candidate Tom Hoefling. Isn't the way I understand it is it isn't just us giving control to the government.
no.
But it's also a lot of that money is tied to physical improvements of these of the schools. And having gone to Indianola schools, I mean, we sat around. I mean, we were tough back then. We sat around, and all we had was the registers, no central heat, no central air. You had to walk across the street to go to the lunchroom. So, do you believe that part of Common Core is something that you wouldn't necessarily support, or how would you improve the infrastructure of the school system? Because it's crumbling, just like the rest of us.
I always hit on the fact of government control over the schools first. The content is another thing. I would urge your listeners, get online. If you don't know about Common Core, start Googling around and start studying it. There's mountains of information out there. So I'm not going to get into the details of the content. I think the content is horrible. But what we're really talking about is control. Part of Common Core is data collection on the students. They've developed a system where they want control over our children and our families from cradle to grave. This is like the ultimate in nanny statism. Then we see the governor pushing a bill in this legislative session, a bullying bill. Okay, that's not a Republican thrust. That's part of the homosexual agenda. Okay, that is to get
what bullying is part of the homosexual agenda.
Oh yeah, it's to gain a societal acceptance for it through the vehicle of the schools and through our children. It's an attack on the morals of many of us, and we don't like that.
Well, Tom, I know you're our guest, and I like I appreciate a lot of what you say, but as a psychiatrist, I can tell you that bullying is a real phenomenon.
Oh, no doubt about it. But
and I'm not quite sure how stating, listen, we don't want to have bullying, and there needs to be penalties for that is fostering the gay agenda.
But are we electing a governor to take care of the behavior of our children? Can't we take care of the behavior of our own children at home? I don't think that we want to be electing a state daddy. Parental rights and duties are what should prevail here. We don't need this kind of governmental meddling in the lives of our families and our children and our communities.
Now, you and I agree right there. That's where we agree. But I still don't understand how it's part of the gay agenda.
Well,
I just don't get that.
Again, I would ask you to go look it over. I mean, it's pretty blatant. It's been part of it. I mean, if you go on their websites, there's a lot of layers of this that lead into those who are pushing the homosexual agenda.
So, you have something?
Well,
I mean, we're with gubernatorial candidate Tom Hoefling, and at some point I'll be able to speak.
Right. I guess one question I would have about bullying, about the bullying legislation, I haven't reviewed any of the language personally, but the principle, as I imagine it would be to give the schools themselves, the administration, the teachers, whoever, more of a role in protecting bullied students. And what I hear you say is that hold on, we don't. That's a step too far. We can police this behavior ourselves with our own children. So, what happens when that parent fails at that duty? Because bullying still happens. Bullies always happen. And it seems to be getting more. We're hearing more and more, and I don't know, Doc, if you can back me up on this. Hearing more and more stories, anecdotal, I admit, about kids that are going to extreme measures to not only bully kids in their own school and other schools, but kids having extreme negative reactions to this stuff.
Well, we hear all these stories, and we saw this coming out of some of the things that the governor did to develop information about bullying, and they tell us that our kids are at risk. The people who are responsible for building this huge educational juggernaut that is top-down, federally run, state-run, they're telling us our kids aren't safe, okay? I'm out here. I oppose this education establishment, okay? So you're sitting here telling me that these places are not a safe place for my kid. You're not doing yourselves any favors here. Personally, I believe our kids, when they're in the public schools, putting aside the good teachers who there may be, who, may be doing a great job, don't get me wrong. But I believe they're spiritually at risk, they're morally at risk, they're intellectually at risk. Iowa has slipped in my lifetime from best in the nation to the bottom half. Something's going on here, and it isn't good for our kids. But in the end, they're also telling us our kids are physically at risk. Okay, as a parent, I'm not going to put my child into a place where I'm afraid for his safety.
Sure.
Well, we're going to take a quick break right here. We want to thank Tom Hoefling for coming on. He is a Republican gubernatorial candidate primarying Governor Branstad at the time. We'll be back right after the break. Stay tuned. We'll continue on. You listen to Doc and Lefty every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. right here on webcast1live.com. We'll see you right after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for listening tonight. We got Tom Hoefling, primary candidate, running in the primary race against Governor Branstad for the gubernatorial election coming this fall. We were talking sort of about his general the platform that he's running on, but I'm interested in this, in your take on the schools and bullying. You got 8 kids.
I have 8 kids.
You have 8 kids,
and I remarried it. I have 5 little kids, and I have 3 grown kids and 2 grandchildren.
Are the 5 little kids? Are they in the public school, or are you homeschooling them?
Actually, only 2 of them are at that age.
Oh, okay.
We worked with a mutual friend of ours, my state representative Tom Shaw, to basically get the homeschoolers loose from state control. It was a great victory, actually, to restore liberty in the last session last year. And so, no, we homeschool. I've been involved in Christian schools. Several of my kids went most of their school through in public school. So I kind of know the whole gamut.
Sure. So if parents of homeschool kids are against, well, let me phrase the question this way. I'm not going to call you on your own personal stuff here. because it's not. I know that's not what you're running on necessarily.
Right.
It's your values that you think would be acceptable for the whole state. But if I've got a parent that is a homeschool parent, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, my dad was a public school teacher for 30 years, so I'm a dyed-in-the-wool public school guy. But if I got a homeschool parent who says to me, I don't like this anti-bullying stuff in the public schools, I would say to them, you know, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because your kids aren't there anyway.
Well, except for the fact that as a taxpayer, I'm helping pay for all of this.
Well, you're helping pay for lots of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're helping pay for roads you don't drive on. And you're helping pay for welfare programs you don't participate in.
Well, but
so I mean, the gripe about paying taxes to me, no offense, seems hollow.
To put aside the bullying thing, okay.
Yeah.
As a homeschooler, I don't have to worry about the bullying thing except
For your particular kids.
bigger brother maybe,
Right.
or their little sister. Okay, but to put it in the perspective of Common Core, as a homeschooler, this will affect me. Common Core will, because basically by setting these standards, and they're horrible standards, they were put together by people who shouldn't have even been doing it, in my opinion. But those standards are going to affect curriculum, and they're going to affect curriculum across the board, because the curriculum developers, in order to stay in the market, they're going to have to make their curriculum materials match up with Common Core. So it affects everybody.
So this was just sort of, this is a smaller piece of your larger objection to Common Core. Okay. Well, serious Tom, I would sit and talk to you about this for a long. I'd call my dad and put my dad on the phone and have him talk to you about this for a long time
that'd be
too.
great.
Because he's an old 1970s Democrat that was a union guy in the teachers movement and stuff.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I love sitting around and talking with people like him. I do, because I tell him, I sit down with him. I sat down up in Cedar Falls when we were petitioning with 3 UNI professors. They were all liberal Democrats. One of them didn't like Common Core because they didn't like standardized testing. The other 2 did support it. But I told them, educate me then.
Yeah.
Really, I think we should have these kind of discussions.
Well, that's only to say that I wanted to move on to another piece of what I wanted to talk to you about. But
Go ahead.
so Branstad's a Common Core guy. Now, when I was kind of looking up on you a little bit, at least getting ready for today, I sort of just assumed, with absolutely no information, that if Branstad was going to get primaried, he would get primaried from the more A.J. Spiker libertarian side of things. And that's not who you are.
I'm not a libertarian. I identify myself politically as a moral conservative. Now, that's not to say I don't have a lot of libertarians supporting me. I do. Sure. Because I do stand for liberty. It's just I define it, in my opinion, the way the founders of this country did.
How's that?
Well, it's the freedom to do right. Okay. And to do good, and to do what you ought, okay, and to fulfill your duties, okay. So there's a sphere for liberty. So the label libertarian is a dicey one for a lot of people politically. I know a lot of folks across the West, and when they say they're a libertarian across the Mountain West, it kind of means a little something different. So it's one of those labels you kind of got to be careful with. It could be big L libertarian, open borders, legal everything,
Right. Sort of your
but
laissez-faire.
those aren't most of the folks in Iowa that identify themselves as libertarian. We're very close in terms of what I call moral conservatism and their libertarianism. We're very close.
Sure. So you must have been really pleased to see A.J. Spiker step down and Danny Carroll step in.
I don't have a dog in that fight. Mr. Spiker and I kind of mixed it up a little bit not long after I got in, and it was over them using their Facebook and their social networks to promote a candidate in the primary when it was still 7-8 weeks until even the opening of the filing period.
Right.
So we kind of went back and forth, and they kind of cooled it, and I didn't get too upset, but so we kind of went back and forth a little bit.
Do you think that you will have sort of an easier time vis-a-vis the party with a Danny Carroll, who's a family leader, a Bob Vanderplaats guy, a moral conservative out of Northwest Iowa, and I'm from Lamar's, Iowa.
Oh, okay.
So I know all about Republican politics in Northwest Iowa.
I mean, the political establishment in this state, I'm kind of like not being too hard on them right now because I'm kind of giving them time to get used to the new reality, which is A, I'm back in Iowa politics, and B, that Branstad has a primary opponent. I said at the beginning, I have a lot of adversaries from 20 years ago in this state, or a few political adversaries within the GOP. I said at the beginning of this back in December, I said, I'm going to give everybody a chance and see how they act. And if they act up, well, we'll deal with that. If they act reasonably and decently, we'll work with them. To his credit, since he became the chairman the other day, Danny Carroll gave me a speaking spot over in Cedar Rapids at the Lincoln Day dinner on Friday, which I'm very happy.
Pretty nice.
Yeah,
pretty nice.
And a few other things. I mean, he reached out to me, not personally, but he's doing. Look, I've been at this a long time. I don't expect against an incumbent of Terry Branstad's stature to get a 100% level playing field. All we've been asking the party folks is, just try and make it kind of level here. So because the bottom line is the people in this state, okay, they deserve to hear the debate.
Right.
All I'm asking people is give me a listen. Listen to what I'm saying. Give me 10 minutes. Let's talk it over. And if you like what I'm saying or you're interested, we'll talk more.
Sure.
How's your fundraising been going?
I was going to ask that same question.
We're running a very grassroots campaign. In fact, we didn't spend any money to get on the ballot.
Well, that's terrific.
One penny.
So that just means you're out there hustling.
We are hustling, and we've been in every press outlet in the state. We've always been poor activists. So over the last decade, we've kind of perfected the means of doing politics either free or very inexpensively. I always put it this way. The founders of this country, they won our independence from Great Britain with handwritten letters and men on horseback, and some crude printing presses and broadsides, flyers. Okay, we've got cell phones, we've got modems, we've got computers, free email, free web radio, free web video, free conferencing ability. And we've learned how to utilize all those things to do grassroots politics. So we're trying to kind of break the money media paradigm because we don't believe it's enough to just win this election. We believe we need to completely rework the way we do politics in this country.
All right. Well, we're here with gubernatorial candidate Tom Hoefling. We're very appreciative that he took the time out of his busy schedule to come and visit with us today. We'll be back with him right after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. Don't forget we have Facebook, Twitter. Doc and Lefty is up. Blake and I have been blogging our hearts out, and we want you to stay tuned for our sponsors. We'll be back right after the break. Thanks for tuning in.
Petrosh & Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh & Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Gosh, every time we come back from that fourth segment or whatever it is, I look over at the clock and we are almost out of time. Every single time. I get
got a half hour.
The whole first half hour just blows by so fast. And
especially when you got a great guest like Tom who's willing to come down, talk, mix it up a little bit.
That's right. Now, I know I've been, that last segment I kind of dominated some of the questions. I know that you have just a slew of questions that you want to ask him. So, Doc, fire away.
All right. Well, first of all, we talked about Common Core, and we talked about a lot of the issues going on with that. The other issue is Iowa DHS is a mess and has been a mess since I've been a physician here in Iowa. It gets better a little bit, gets worse a little bit. Doesn't matter what administration is taking over. We have this thing up in Toledo, which I believe is a political stunt because Toledo existed under those rules under both Democratic administrators before Branstad. What are you going to do if you get in? What are you going to do to clean up DHS and make it run right?
Well, I'm going to give you an honest answer on that. Is I don't know for sure. I don't know the ins and outs of every bit of policy. I don't know the whole state budget.
I can give you a recommendation. You can fire Charles Palmer.
Okay.
Palmer.
I'm a good listener, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of advice from a lot of people. You'll find this interesting. When we were petitioning, one of the counties we petitioned in was Tama, and I went into Traer and went up and down there along a pretty big main street they have there, and virtually everyone signed my petitions. It didn't matter what party they were in. That county is up in arms against the governor. They just are. I went down to Toledo and Tama, and it was part of their culture, and so they're really mad about the way that all unfolded. It seems to me, and I had a lot of people tell me this, that they were planning on doing that for a long time, and so they took the number of kids they had their way down. A lot of money was invested in that facility, a huge amount of money. It was first class, and so what now? Branstad,
give the devil his due. We were just talking during the break that Branstad may have his faults, but that guy can raise some money. He can. And one of the things that he's good at doing is getting businesses to come in. He brought in Facebook. He brought in Brownell. And you can argue with how he did it, but part of how he does it, and this is typical of all government administrators, he gives them giant tax breaks.
Yeah. So.
Now Iowa is close to the bottom. I think we're ranked 42nd as far as tax terrible states. So what are you going to do to reverse that trend that Iowa's kick on? So how are you going to do it? How are you going to balance the budget, keep people like Lefty happy, and make sure that taxes go down?
All I need is a bag of gummy worms and some Dr. Pepper. That's all I need.
I hope Lefty will forgive me when I say this, but the Democrats try and bribe the voters with their own money, okay? Terry Branstad tries to bribe the voters with the money that he bribed companies with, okay? I don't support any of that. I've read Bastia 180 years ago. He described exactly the kind of system that we've developed in this country now, and specifically in this state. It's true in all the other states as well. He called it legal plunder, and he called it socialism. And so I believe the kind of what we call economic development system that we've developed is actually state socialism.
So how are you going to reverse that? I mean, once you get people on the public dole, it's tough to get them off.
It is, but there's always an end to Ponzi schemes. They have to stop at some point. We can either fix it now or we can fix it later.
So how are you going to reach out to liberal whack jobs like Lefty over here to get him to vote?
I don't know
with
Lefty.
you.
But I'll tell you what I think. I believe in equal protection under the law. Okay, that's true when you're talking about unborn children or posterity, or whether you're talking about economic development. Okay, when they depict Lady Justice, okay, it's with scales and a sword and a blindfold. That blindfold is there because justice is supposed to be blind. This is not just the judiciary that refers to. Our legislators, our executives. They should not be playing favorites with anyone in government. We should have policies and laws that protect everybody equally and benefit everyone equally. So my solution to this mess that they've created is very simple. Get rid of our state income tax.
And what would you replace it with?
Nothing.
So how are we going to generate revenues then? Because you have to replace it with something. I mean, states with no income tax have something.
First of all, like 60% of our budget's going to education. So let's revise our entire tax code. Let's revise our property taxes so that money stays at home. Okay? Let's get rid of the state income tax. It's working really good for South Dakota. Go ask the folks up in Sioux City. You'll find out. Sioux Falls has grown by over a third in the last decade. Texas is booming. Florida. They're doing really well. again, I'm not going to sit here as a private citizen without the resources of the governor and tell you I have every bit of this all worked out. But I do believe, reading my state constitution, looking at the constitutional obligations of the state, if you remove that huge education portion, we can meet all of our obligations using the sales tax money.
All right. Again, we're with Tom Hoefling, Republican candidate for governor. He's primary in Governor Branstad, which, in my opinion, takes a lot of guts. Because Terry Branstad is very popular. I want to get back a little bit to the financial situation of Iowa. Now, you know Tom Shaw, and we know Tom Shaw, and we like him quite a bit. However, one of the conversations I had with Tom, Representative Shaw, one time is, if you only increase the budget 5% as opposed to, or 3% as opposed to 5% or 8%, isn't that still a budget increase? So how are you going to start reversing the trend so that we have a little bit of having it going in the other direction?
Before I answer that, can I make one other comment? I will come right back to that. But you asked me a political question, and I want to answer it. When I've talked about opposing Common Core, when I've talked about true local control of the schools, keeping our money at home, when I've talked about getting rid of the state income tax, I talked to probably 10,000 people when we were petitioning, and they were of all political stripes. And the head nods I was getting was not just from conservatives and Republicans, it was from Democrats. That message was really, powerful. They agreed with me down here in the hood by the Drake neighborhood. Walked in there, and they, some of them wanted to know first, my feelings on marijuana, right? Mm-hmm. But I started telling them what I was about, and I told them I want to get rid of the state income tax, and they grabbed the pen out of my hand, to sign. So back to your other point, we've seen this game, and it's particularly acute in D.C. They talk about cuts or actually cuts to the increases. It's all a big scam. You'd have to be asleep not to have caught on to the scam by now. And meanwhile, government just keeps growing and growing. And ultimately, it's bad enough for us. But what we're doing is we're actually robbing our posterity, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren of their God-given right to government by consent, okay? We've got to find a way to stop playing that game that you were just talking about. And the only way you can do that is, first of all, get people in office who actually understand it. I mean, we don't need just the governor's office. We need a whole bunch of people like Tom Shaw. He's the best. He represents me. Yep. He's my state rep, okay? I helped get him elected. I love that man. Is he perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. But he's the best legislator we've had down there for the last 4 years. The political establishment hates him because he says what he believes. He lays it out, and he says, these are the things I won't negotiate on. All that other stuff, we can talk about it, but these things, no. These are the core underpinnings of American Republican self-government and our claim to liberty. Okay, Tom deserves everyone's appreciation and praise, and now he's going home. Yeah. So,
well, we're with Tom Hoefling, Republican gubernatorial candidate. We're grateful to have him on tonight. We'll be back right after the break to have more questions for Tom. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, docandlefty.com. And we're going to stay tuned for a word from our sponsors. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're here every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com. We'll be back right after the break.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them, Max.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out the sponsors that we had there. We missed one in the last segment, Des Moines Anesthesiologists. They got an outfit in Fort Dodge. They got an outfit here in Des Moines. They'll take care of you.
The outfit.
Yeah, well, they're doing
they're
doing
good guys.
They're doing whatever they need to do to keep you you healthy and pain free. So that's always a good goal. But Doc, I know that you had a few more questions you wanted to ask our guest.
Well, Tom, I want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate because it's what I do. Now, you the last segment you were talking about equal protection under the law and the rest of that. How are you going to reconcile equal protection under the law with your stance on gay marriage? That's from my perspective.
Wow.
Every time a DOMA type law is challenged, even conservatives overrule it in part because of equal protection in the law. A lot of times it's the property rights issues. So how do you reconcile that with your stance, and what would you do with gay marriage? How would you approach that?
Well, the basis of my political philosophy is a natural law basis, the same principles that undergirded the Declaration of Independence. So it comes back in the end, and this is where it always leads, to a basic understanding of right and wrong, okay? Mommies go with daddies, daddies go with mommies, okay? Even little children understand this. When it comes to abortion, even little children understand it's wrong to kill a baby, okay? So the foundation of my understanding is a simple understanding of right and wrong. It's the same understanding that I share with the people who founded this country, who built it, who governed it most of our history until recently. This is a radical revolutionary thing that they're doing. And they're not just trying to redefine marriage, which that's like trying to redefine up or down. You can do it if you want, okay? And you can even put that in your laws, and you can go jump off 80-foot cliffs. But the rocks at the bottom are not going to care, okay? Reality is reality. Marriage is what marriage is. It's the fundamental civil institution of our whole society, the basis of our economy. If you even study the etymology of the word economy, it has to do with the family and the village. So it's something that we need to preserve, okay? And so we need to govern according to reality. We can get outside of that, we can do that, but what we're going to do is end up creating unjust laws.
Well, then, so
hold on a second.
Go ahead.
So and I hear what you're saying, but as a psychiatrist, I can tell you that, all personal beliefs aside, you will get, even from conservative people in my business, a resounding thank God for gay couples, because we would then have to keep these kids in foster care for years and years. Who gets to decide what family is? And can you legislate what a family is? Because that smacks a lot like what the communists do.
Well, we always did in this country. And remember, there are 4 states in this union that in order to be allowed in, Congress said to them, you must forever swear off plural marriage. Okay, it's Utah, Idaho, Arizona, and Oklahoma. Okay, we've always tried to preserve that fundamental thing, which is one man, one woman marriage in this country. Because if you think it through, if you read the stated purposes of the U.S. Constitution, abortion violates every single clause. But if you get down to the last one, it's the supreme stated purpose of the Constitution is to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Okay, the natural family is not dispensable. Okay, I'm not sitting here talking, about homosexuality. I'm talking about preserving the most important fundamental institution of our country and our civilization.
So every time DOMA has been struck down, and this is all across the U.S., every time it's been struck down on 3 basic principles. And Lefty, correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Equal protection, the property rights issue, and states overstepping what they're allowed to define.
Okay.
So how are you going to write a bill that's going to sidestep what they've already done. Now, keep in mind, there are conservative scholars that agree with that agree that these bills violate people's rights.
Okay, well, the first one is specious because they have an equal right to get married, okay? Anybody else. They can go get married. If they're a man, they can get married to a woman. If they're a woman, they can get married to a man. They have an equal right to do that. What was your second one?
Property rights.
Property rights. They can write contracts right now.
Yeah, but the courts have a tendency to invalidate them in the face of family resistance. That's something I've seen happen several times in my practice. So I guess I get back to, whether the argument's specious or not, how are you going to write a bill that does that, that's going to stand up to constitutional scrutiny?
Well, we already have the laws on the books, and this leads into another very important area, which is the area of judicial supremacy. The law in the books right now in the state of Iowa is one man, one woman. Okay, the law has never been changed. So you hear all these talking heads saying, "Oh, they changed the law in Iowa." No, that is a misunderstanding of our form of government. Judges do not make laws. I've read our constitutions. Okay, the idea that they do is destroying our country, and it's destroying our freedom. It's destroying our form of government. Now, that's one thing. You got the judges who are outside their appropriate jurisdiction making stuff up over, revolutionary acts like gay marriage. Okay, but you also have an executive branch who won't even fulfill their duty to provide a check and balance against these usurpers. Okay, you also have a legislature who won't do their job. Here in Iowa, we the people, because we had that constitutional mechanism of retention, we did something unprecedented. We threw 3 of them out on their ears. Okay, Tom Shaw, I helped him a little, wrote the impeachment articles against the other 4. And the Republican leadership in the Iowa House buried them in committee. Okay, when judges get out of control, they should be impeached by the people's representatives and removed from their offices. Same goes for executives.
Even if the law violates one of the premier constitutional arguments of property rights. That was in part their decision was based upon property rights. And I just I get back to, how are you going to write that bill? Because that's the question I always want to know from Republicans is, how are you going to do that?
They're not going to write a bill. You have there at this point, there is no, given Varnum, there is no legislative action that can be taken that will survive judicial scrutiny. There has to be an amendment. And there has to be a constitutional amendment in the state of Iowa that throws Varnum out overboard. You can't legislate it, given the level of scrutiny that the court applied. The court didn't just say it doesn't meet strict scrutiny. It said that it doesn't meet rational basis to prevent gay marriage from happening. So if it doesn't pass the lowest level, it's not going to pass the higher levels. There has to be an amendment. I know that the family leader is at least drafting.
Let's come back to that right after the break.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Des Moines Anesthesia, of course, is one of our sponsors. They have an outfit in Fort Dodge and Des Moines. They do a great job. I've known these anesthesiologists literally since I was in medical school. They've done a great job. And when you're looking it up, it is Des Moines Anesthesia PC. The number's right there, 263-5316. We're going to be, and I really want to thank Tom Hofling for showing up. He's answering some tough questions that honestly, other gubernatorial candidates won't come on to ask. So we really appreciate Tom coming on. Really appreciate this. We're on Facebook, Twitter, docandlefty.com. We're going to be back right after the break. We're going to ask Tom some more questions for our final segment. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back right after the break.
On the whole, I think Washington, D.C. is a terrible place. It's hot, it's humid, kind of smells, and it's totally lacking individuals who know how to create jobs and live within their means. Hi, I'm Brad Zahn, and I approve this message. And I'm running for Congress because we owe it to future Iowans to fix the mess that was created in Washington, D.C. I've had real experience creating jobs, cutting taxes, and balancing budgets while mayor and in the state senate. If you trust me to represent you, I promise I'll go to Washington, D.C. and do the right thing, and come home every Sunday to spend time with my wife, my kids, and my neighbors here in Iowa. We cannot leave this country in worse shape than we found it. I will not pass this debt on to my children or yours. I will go to Washington, D.C. and tell them enough is enough. Standing together is the only way we're going to get Washington, D.C. to listen, and I hope you'll join me in this fight.
Brad Zahn for United States Congress.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty and Doc and Lefty here. We're wrapping up. The hour is quickly coming to a close, and the 60 minutes just flies by, especially we had an interesting guest, an interesting perspective. We got Tom Hoefling. He's running against Terry Branstad in the Republican primary for governor this year. It's happening this November. Get out and vote. Research both guys, research all the candidates, and pick the one that you think represents you and your values the closest. Right before the break, Doc was asking you, Tom, a question about your response to I'm gonna simplify it, the Varnum decision, because that's really the underpinning of this entire conversation. And I started to wax a little bit legalistic, saying there is no law that can be written at this point, given the way that the decision is written. There has to be a constitutional amendment if conservatives want to overturn that decision. And you said over the break that you wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, I really do. Again, judges don't make our laws.
Right.
That power is reserved to the legislative branch.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to judge in individual cases that come before them according to our constitutions and according to the constitutional laws that are on the books. You go back and you read Blackstone and Aquinas and Alexander Hamilton and all these people. They said laws that violate the laws of nature and nature's God, and they also talked, of course, Hamilton about our Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
They called them null and void. Okay. Again, we are supposed to have a system of checks and balances. If you got a judge that does something that is outside his appropriate jurisdiction, okay, the other two branches, it's incumbent on them to tell them to go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sorry to use the language, but really, we've got to get that attitude. We got to start telling these judges, we're not going to go along with you anymore, okay? The law in the books right now is one man, one woman. Okay?
And it's unconstitutional.
It's according to the court. But
well, the court's the only one that can make that decision.
Let me ask you a question, Lefty.
Absolutely.
Let's say, a miracle happens and I become governor.
Okay.
According to Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, I'll have to raise my right hand and either affirm or swear to God
mm-hmm.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a pledge to obey the opinions of judges? Or do I have to, as an elected officer, do I have to look at those constitutions, look at the laws, and judge for myself how I keep that oath? Same goes for legislators.
Right. I would respond to that question by saying that it has been, and you're a traditionalist, it sounds like, that there is no tradition and there is no precedent stretching back to the founding that permits executives or legislators on their own accord the power of judicial review of the Constitution, what the Constitution means. I had the same conversation with a friend of mine down in Marion County just the other day, where I was making the argument that at this point in history, 2014, as of right now today, it does not matter what a judge has to say about a particular article of the Constitution. When it comes right down to it, the federal level, the state level, doesn't matter. When the opinion comes down, that is, in fact, from a truth value perspective, what the Constitution says on a practical, functional level. We have abortion because of that. We have negated gun control because of that. We have gay marriage in Iowa because of that. When the court rules, truth in fact, that is what the Constitution says, unless it's changed or amended by.
So are you not arguing for a judicial oligarchy as opposed to a constitutional republic?
I'm not arguing for anything. I'm just telling what the reality is.
Well, the reality is I've read Marbury versus Madison, which is what the judicial supremacists hang their hat on. It says the exact opposite of what they claim. Marshall in Marbury, very clearly, you go all the way down to the end, and the summation of it is the court has to follow the Constitution, and so does every other department, every officer of every other department. He was a constitutional supremacist. And it's very clear if people put aside the law school nonsense and put aside what they've heard and go read it. They actually wrote that decision in plain English. And anybody who will go read the last 12 paragraphs or whatever, they'll see that Marshall in Marbury is saying what I'm saying. We have to follow the Constitution, not the opinions of judges, not the opinions of governors. If you're in the legislative branch and a governor gets outside his jurisdiction, they need to throw him out too. Now,
Well, one question I want to ask, and since Lefty brought up gun control, Iowa doesn't have a stand your ground law or a castle law. Do you support either of those positions?
I support both of those. Primarily, I support constitutional carry. My friend Tom Shaw tried to get that bill going again this year, along with a true pro-life bill, and the Republican leadership squelched it right down to the end. He's still working on it, but they're acting like the pro-lifers and the pro-gun people are a minority instead of
the majority.
The majority.
All right. And so right now we have to go to the sheriff and ask for permission to carry a gun. Are you going to change that system at all?
Oh, I'd like to. What
would you change it to?
Well, I would want, like Wyoming has, constitutional carry.
But it's now a shall issue. It doesn't matter. They used to have a discretion. Now they don't. So what's the difference?
You still have to go through the background check and all that stuff.
If you go back and you read Samuel Adams and the Committees of Correspondence, their final work that they put out, their communication to the leaders of Boston, they spelled out life, liberty, property, and the right to defend them. Okay, and he called this the first law of nature, and that's what self-defense is. So it's fundamental, and we need to knock it off. We need to get rid of this gun control mentality.
Well, I mean,
now, as we wrap up the show, is there anything you want to tell our listeners out there? Because we get liberals and conservatives listening in.
Sure, I'd love to talk to all of them as time allows. A couple things, if you're a Republican or you're going to vote in the Republican primary, I need your vote on June 3rd. It would be a real blow to the political establishment if I'd win this primary. The other thing is go to my website, tomhoefling.com, HOEFLING, and I'm very good about responding to people, and I'm probably the most accessible politician you'll ever find. I talk to people on a consistent basis. I answer emails. I joke with people. I answer all of them except the really mean ones.
Yeah, and they can be mean out
there. That's not worth the time. But no, look, Terry Branstad won't debate me. He has refused to debate me, and I think that is a disservice to the people of this state. They deserve to have our differences put out on display and thoroughly discussed. They deserve to have a debate. I can't make him debate, but I'm left now with what I've got to do is just take my message directly to the people. In the end, it's in the court of public opinion. Does his refusal to debate matter to you when you cast your vote or not?
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you, Tom, for coming on and sharing your views. I would like to extend an invitation that I'm sure Lefty will support. Whenever you want to come on the show again, you let us know. We'll get you on. All right.
All right. Great.
We enjoyed having you as a guest.
Too.
I enjoyed asking you some tough questions, and I appreciate the answers that you give. And again, it's Tom Hoefling, HOEFLING.com.
Right.
All right. Don't forget, Doc and Lefty's on Facebook and Twitter. You can find us there by just putting in Doc and Lefty. We have docandlefty.com. We want to thank our sponsors, Des Moines Anesthesia, Brad Zahn for Congress, and Halo Capital. Make sure you stop by their websites. And we'll be back next week at the same time on webcast1live.com. Lefty, you doing anything this weekend?
I got nothing going on. My parents will be in town.
Oh, all right.
It'll be a good time.
Well, happy.
Mom and Pop Labinas are going to come and buy me dinner.
Oh, no kidding.
They usually do.
We'll take them someplace expensive.
All right. Hey, they're not made of money, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.